Hello.
Howdy.
Hello.
Anyways, my apologies if I sound super congested. I'm still getting over this cold or whatever it is. Anyways, we're actually all here today to talk about freelancing, consulting, game development. So I have today with me Alina and Brown.
Howdy. My name is Alina, and kind of my freelancing consulting journey and how it all began was I got really sick of my daytime job. I was in mechanical engineering and did a lot of stuff for startups, so very much in the startup world, working like 60 to 80 hours a week. I was working from like 9 a.m. and then would leave the office at 11 p.m. Rage quit my job, decided to go into game dev after watching a bunch of YouTube videos on Unity and Playmaker. But then also, I'm like, I still need money. I did save up some money, but I needed money on the side. And so I started our little game studio and then also started doing consulting and freelancing work on the side. So, kind of running two businesses. And I absolutely love it. It's very painful at the same time. But yeah, just here to hopefully give y'all some lessons learned and I don't know, just trying to be real. I really don't want to romanticize it because sometimes it really sucks, but sometimes it's awesome. So there
Dude,
we
all
go.
that and you're killing it on TikTok, popping out videos like it's like there's no tomorrow. I'm like,
I'm
how?
oh my gosh, you do not want to. My schedule is so messed up, honestly, but yeah.
We'll for
Thank
sure
you.
get into it. All right, Brown, tell us about yourself.
All right, my name is Browntul. I am a variety streamer, aka I play Valorant and Switch games.
Oh yeah, I was like,
and Switch
variety. I've
games.
seen you play one game.
Just one, only Valorant. I'm kidding. I mean, I did jump into Valorant more often, but yeah, I'm a variety Twitch streamer. You see me on Twitch now and then. I do freelance shoutcasting, aka commentary for esports, mostly in the Valorant space for some other games as well. So you might hear my voice in some of these online Valorant streamer tournaments here in SoCal. On the side, I graduated in a master's degree in computer science. After that, I went off and did some contract work with TwilioQuest, which was my one and only nice little job in game dev. And that was a lot of fun. Learn how to teach other people how to code through a coding game. That's something I've always wanted to do. Now I'm still looking for a job in software engineering in general now, as well as pursuing this freelance shoutcasting gig that I've been doing for the last year.
So I kind of want to go into that. Is like what kind of made you guys consider going into like freelancing, consulting, rather than going like straight into a job?
For me, it was the freedom of picking your own schedule. I think was the biggest thing, and so I wanted to be able to work on game dev for between 4 to 8 hours a day, and then do client work or consulting work in the evenings or whenever they needed me to do that. And so it was really the flexibility and also working remote. So to clarify, I do consulting for hardware startups and basically startups that make physical products. To be a mechanical engineer and working remote is very hard to find. When you're in mechanical engineering, or especially if you're building hardware, they want you on site because they want you to like prototype, build a thing, be at manufacturing. And so it was like, okay, like this is my skill set, and I picked the wrong career picking a skill set that had to be in person. So how can I like switch it up to control my schedule.
Definitely want to move to that work from home life.
Exactly.
Besides like wanting to work from home and being able to like work on your own time, was there any other factors that like made you want to change from mechanical engineering to more, like software work?
Yeah, I mean, the work from home thing was a huge aspect, and I just I'm gonna sound like a coding hater, maybe a little bit. I'm definitely just jealous, but software devs, they make way more than mechanical engineers. Just like the potential is so much higher, you and like better benefits and all of that. Like I had friends who went to 6 week like coding boot camps making more than me, and I'm a senior mechanical engineer and I've like worked really hard to get to where I
Wow.
was in my career. And I was just like, I don't know, money, time, and then also always had an interest in video games. I'm like, like why not give it a shot?
Yes. What about you, Brown? When did you get into sort of that contract consulting work?
I I was a COVID grad, so I went straight into my master's after I
Shout out
graduated.
COVID.
And then I was like, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna learn about all this game stuff, and then maybe do research because that's an option. And then the option disappeared because it happened. So, um, and a lot of people were actually impacted in this pure science like field. Um, some of us, which were fortunate to get internships, had them
Hmm.
canceled because no one knew how to like fund them remotely, and everyone got put remotely. And so I was kind of forced into remote from the beginning. And then I graduated with no fanfare because there's no graduation ceremony or anything. Just like, okay, figure it out. Good luck. And I didn't figure it out, which was
Everyone's saying
okay for me.
congratulations right now. We'll host your graduation right now.
So I was kind of left to figure things out on my own. I got lucky with Twilio. I was fostering that networking for probably 2 years at that point in their various student programs, and they were like, "You want to make games?" And I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
Yeah, so I ended up there, and that just happened to be contract based job, and I didn't know much about like contract work beforehand. So when I shifted over toward the broadcasting side of things, I realized a lot of that is also just pretty similar to the contract and freelance. You don't get signed to something and like you do this for a whole year, like every day. It's not really a 9 to 5 thing. You only broadcast if there's a game or some sort of event. Those two experiences is where I started to learn more about what's like to do contract work and or really freelancing from the broadcasting side. And like Elena said earlier, you get to pick your own schedule, or the schedule is not necessarily set to 9 to 5
Hmm.
to pick like when you want to do something on your own schedule. And in this world of we have to do things online for the most part, just look to embrace that instead of trying to force myself to go back to what it was like before the pandemic.
Yeah, no, I think like definitely the benefits of being able to work on your own schedule is like a huge thing when it comes to freelancing and consulting, which leads me to ask, how do you manage your time? Because since there's no strict schedule, how do you stop yourself from like working really, really late at night or working like 8, 10 plus hours a day? How do you like balance and structure yourself?
Do we all use calendars? Are we all overworkers?
Yeah, like what kind of tools maybe do you think have helped with that?
Brown, you go first. I'm gonna try and think of my answer.
I was always the type of person that never planned it too far ahead. I like to live in the moment. I know this is like an answer that really irks some people sometimes, but for when I do broadcasting stuff, a lot of these events happen on the weekends, and so I'm able to actually like block out like which weekends are big events that I can do and build my portfolio through that. And because it's just weekends, it's pretty easy to schedule that. Sometimes I host my own events or help co-host events that I also broadcast, and so I can squeeze them into like a digital calendar format and go from there. In college, I actually they provided us with Google Calendar and Google Apps. So I started to use that more often, and I had this problem where I was jumping between calendar apps and having to like sync them together, and that was always a mess. But the calendar apps are even a basic calendar app is more useful than you think. If you don't use a basic calendar app and you just try to memorize everything, you'll eventually forget. And when you're doing a lot of different work, especially in
Mm.
freelance or contract, forget something, it's going to bite you.
I don't know, I'm still working on it. I've tried a couple different things. So the first thing I did was try to schedule like every single hour. So I had this like law of attraction journal, like this thick ass book, and I filled out, planned out my whole week, like from 7 a.m. to 7:35, I'm gonna eat my scone and like blah 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 blah. And then but then when I didn't match the schedule, or like I slept in or something, I just felt really guilty. And then so yeah, just chucked the book away and was like, okay, F that, that's not working. My life is pretty much my Google Calendar these days, and I think the best thing I found is Trello. Trello is
Mm.
like Kanban board, so I have the cards. I know what cards I need to approximately do per week, or like for the day. So right now, like my big card is I gotta finish this push notification feature for my game by this date. And so I roughly know, okay, I need to put in like a couple hours a day, and maybe some days are more and some days are less. that's what I'm doing kind of right now. And then if there is a client, then client work, just like time block. Like I'm working on client work from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. every day. And that's working for me right now. I definitely say gotta find what works for you. Sam, what are
Yeah.
you doing right now?
Like someone mentioned Asana, I feel like it works really well for like if you're maybe a fully oiled working company machine. For me personally, I found like notebooks help a lot, but I've been trying to use Notion a lot more. I have like a whole weekly planned lookout for Notion, but sometimes it can get too much to look at, especially because I don't have that much going on with my life right now. So when I used to organize like a whole hackathon thing, like event planning, I did everything through Google Docs and actually was like I'd have a Google folder, like multiple folders, and then like docs in there that like linked to the folder that needed it. That worked out really well for me. It was simple enough where I don't get lost and there's no like bells and whistles. I'm trying to use Notion just because I'm trying to be like those Notion girlies that have the aesthetic Notions.
You
The
know, Sam,
fancy
it's
stuff.
funny that you mentioned like the Google Doc stuff because when I was in college and I was doing club events, I actually started using Google Sheets a lot more because they have a bunch of templates for checklists. And I realized that when I was focusing on specific events to admin or to help organize, that it was good to have a checklist of items to say, like, this is what we need to do in this order. And if we can do this by those soft and hard deadlines that we set, then we'd pretty much be on track to do things. And for the most part, it worked. You know, it's not like automated really, but it's like good to see like a checklist of things to do. And the same thing with Trello's. You know, Trello is really just a checklist. Visually and checking through them, it's just really satisfying.
Yeah, I definitely did the checklist in the Google Doc. I never knew there was a template for Excel sheets. I
I,
have to
I
look
like
at
Excel
it.
sheets because you're able to like make cells checkboxes and then
Yeah.
be able to set like date formats and stuff like that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like that's why I gravitate toward Excel sheets if I know most of the data on there is going to be like table based data.
Also considered like forms. I never actually did it, but had like I thought about it. Like what if you like just filled out a form every day for the rest of your life of like what did you do today? How are you feeling? Blah blah blah, you know.
Sounds like journaling.
It kind of is, yeah, like a easier way to journal. 'Cause sometimes I'm like, I look at a blank piece of paper and I'm like, what do I write? Like, where do I start? I need like prompts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so maybe we could talk about challenges that are like specific to either like finding consulting work or challenges within those projects you've had and like what kind of helped you out with those.
So from the consulting side, I do both contracting and consulting. Kind of just depends what's like in the pipeline and my schedule for that quarter. I think the worst part about like running a consulting business is finding clients, and then I'm also a one woman show, so it's also just me. So I can only handle probably up to two clients at the most at a single time, and finding clients is really, I think, just it's really tough. And I all of the clients I've had so far, I've had about maybe like 5 or 6 clients starting this business last summer in 2021. They were all word of mouth and like kind of like almost like pass it on. And so
Uh-huh.
being able to just like really knock it out of the park and ask for referrals, like, do you know of any other startups that need help, and kind of spread through the chain. My very first client I got last year was the startup called Opal Camera. They make this really cool
Oh,
4K web camera. It's like very, I feel like it's very hot right now. It's like one of the tech gadgets of the year, which was exciting to be on that project. But I got that client because someone posted a comment on my Twitter saying Alina works really fast. I
that's
like made one of those like flex, like tweets like I'm the best, and then someone like commented, "Yeah, Alina's really fast at working." And then this the Opal camera guy saw it and was like, "Oh, we need someone fast," and like I like this guy, and so that's how I got the gig. It's like I'm just rambling here. Brown, go for it.
If anyone's looking for someone that does things fast, yeah, right here we got someone right here. Yeah, but for me, I think well in terms of the tech stuff, once again, I found the Twilio thing through networking. And if you don't really have a focus, and I can say this from someone that has no focus, I need to figure out what I really want to do. I have all these different things that I've learned throughout like school, and then post school, going to like Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, like picking up some certifications. Like I'm sure once I figure out the specific thing that like interests me, then it would be like easier to narrow down what type of roles I would want to apply for, and then go for that. In terms of the broadcasting side of things, the esports, you just gotta put yourself out there and look. There's so many people that want to be commentators, especially when you look on TikTok and you see all those hype plays where everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, what a great play!" Blah, 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 like talk really fast, and then it like pops up on TikTok. Yeah, you have to compete with people like those. Like, just a lot of people that want to get there, and there's only so many top roles for broadcasting out there. So having to make a portfolio page for myself to show these are the things that I've casted. These are some big events, small events. I've done a lot of different events. These are the things that I've done and how I contributed to them, and just working on that portfolio piece as well as that commentating reel that someone can open the video and say, "This is what my voice sounds like. This is how I present to the screen." Is this someone that you want? Like Alina said, you have to go out there and look for the roles. The roles don't come to you. You have to go look for them. For the longest time, I was doing a lot of, like I said, just small streamer events in SoCal. You may not even have heard of these streamers, but I do them. They're nice events. And then eventually, this month I did a college game for in CSUN in CSU Northridge in California.
Oh,
and that's like one college game after like maybe 19 or 20 random streamer events. And I love these people, but college is kind of nice. College scene, that's like a step forward. And if I keep doing more of those, then like I'll get more noticed, and then I can go into like 3 tier 2 tier 1, and then like get to the top. But it requires a lot of hard work and looking for those roles.
Yeah. What you said about the promo reel thing, I think like contracting, consulting, even like getting a regular job, I don't think a resume is enough anymore. You need a portfolio, a website, promo reel, something. So my website isn't the greatest, but my website has also helped me on jobs. AlinaMatson.com. So feel free to check that out.
I literally have all y'all's.
Oh! But like
everyone can creep.
Oh my
Dude, look at Alina's presence on all the platforms.
Oh no,
you can't miss her.
It's amazing. Biggest takeaway definitely is like when you want to do freelancing, consulting, like work like that, you need to have a way of marketing and advertising yourself, and you need to have a big presence online to like showcase all of the stuff that you've worked on, so you have more credibility to your name. Do you have like words of advice, like just do it? Like
I'm gonna say the thing I regret the most early stage career was not documenting my stuff. Like I did a lot of cool shit first few years out of college. I don't have any photos of it. And it's like having a photo of your project or whatever it is, it just looks so much cooler on a website or portfolio. And so that's a big regret I have. So if you're starting now, document, your UI, your code, take pictures, just make it visually really nice.
I agree, and what really helps too, as long as you've been logging your pull requests on GitHub, it looks like you're doing something.
Make pull requests every day.
I remember the first time I went to a hackathon, I didn't use GitHub because I didn't know how to Git, and our source control was Dropbox. That was the greatest thing ever. I do regret not doing more open source stuff because it really shows the style that you code and like how you code things. And now my GitHub is kind of a mess of different things, but it's a great way to show like this is the way that you code and what things you like coding in or what you specialize in. GitHub was the thing for me going through college. And then some places do look at that to say like, can you prove that you know how to actually code? And I'm like, here, this is the stuff I did.
Definitely very valuable site to have. I was gonna say, I personally tried documenting through Twitter, but I feel like that might be a bad idea now.
I do post some of my broadcasting clips on Twitter, and then because I don't have a updated reel yet that has which is a combination of clips that I think I present myself well, I literally just linked a bunch of Twitter embeds of like, these are some nice clips that you can see me do, which I don't recommend. You should just put something in the reel for broadcasting at least.
Yeah. For now, it's working, but who knows? It's kind of wanted to also ask like what you would tell someone in beginning stages of entering this career. I know we touched a little bit about like regrets, what we wish we could have done. Do you have like any other information that you would like to share?
For me, switching from mechanical engineering to game dev, I think COVID changed a lot of things and kind of my perception of like what do I value in life. I picked mechanical engineering because I love products. Like I'm such a materialistic person. I'm like a material girl, and I just like love things, and so I wanted to make things, design things, manufacture things. But what I didn't like realize when picking that major in school was the lifestyle associated. Like it's going to be a 40-week hour job. You're flying out to factories in the middle of America or like, somewhere in Shenzhen, China. Each career has a lifestyle, I think, associated with it. And I wish I considered that more. I think I might have would have been done like computer science or development if I knew that. Yeah.
I remember going through the entire college experience through my bachelor's, through my master's, and almost getting no advice on how to do career stuff afterwards. School that I went to, they do have a good career center, don't get me wrong, but they don't it's not like the career center goes to every single major in the school and says, here's what you get your career out of it or whatever. And so our culture was less, we get through the courses, we're gonna be very smart and we're just gonna be ready for the job world. Well, we didn't know that COVID was gonna happen. And this stuff was just so new that like it was kind of up to us to explore. And for me, having jumped through different interests within computer science meant that I wasn't really focused on one thing. If I really figured out that game dev was something that was so cool, like my freshman year instead of my like 6th year of my master's degree, then maybe I would have been prepared to take certain courses or join a video game development club or do some internships in game dev. Instead, now I have to deal with kind of playing catch up, which is okay. Like there's a bunch of game jams out there, and game jams are coding competitions revolving around games and making game prototypes. I just try to invest in myself and work more on Unity stuff and Game Maker Studio stuff. Those are the 2 game engines I use. You just got to keep making stuff that is aligned to something that you're passionate about. If you're really passionate about something, then you'll keep working yourself towards it and you'll invest yourself in that.
Like I kind of am a big fan of people taking like a leap year, or not a leap year, what's it called, a year off from like high school
gap
to
year.
college, gap year, to kind of like figure out what they want to do, like talk with people in different industries. Like I think they should make that a class. Like the gap year should be a class where you like reach out to different people in different careers and like kind of figure out more specifically what you like to get into, because it's definitely true. Is like once you're in the career and you don't like it, it's not super easy to pivot when you're still in the beginning stages.
Sam, that the gap year has really transcended into a new like era since the pandemic era. A lot of my classmates took a gap year once COVID happened. They realized that they either were not going to learn anything online in their programs, or they thought this was a great time for them to learn something new and like hope it kind of blows over in a year, and maybe they'll decide to continue their degree, or they have something new, they have a new direction, they can focus on that. Gap years are usually done after you or before or after you start college. It's starting to happen in between college too because of this world that we live in now.
I always like don't realize how much of an impact like the COVID really had on like school education career. Like it really just shook things out of control. Like the effects of it are still happening even now.
Something that I'm noticing is I think the younger generation, so I'm a millennial, Gen Z feels much more in tune with like figuring out what they want out of life, and I don't know if that was caused by the pandemic or something else. Sam and Brown, are you all Gen Z millennials, or what is your like mindset?
I think we're like on the cusp of millennial. I think we're still technically millennial.
Yeah,
97
like
maybe.
technically, yeah, we're still young. We're all young.
Okay.
I would say millennial. Like I grew up with like flip phones, you grew up with like the box TV. Like being able to see like the transition from like the technological advancements throughout the years is kind of insane. I want to now actually like pivot towards game dev. What really got you guys into game dev? What are some games that kind of inspired you a lot, or like to like try it out and like pursue game development?
Well, when I was a kid, I grew up playing a lot of Nintendo games. That was the only games we were allowed to play in our family because it was family friendly, and all the other companies were evil. But we, uh, but so I played a lot. Like we had an hour, like a week to play on Game Boy as a reward for studying, and a lot of the games on there were like Mario games and platformers, and those games are structured pretty straightforward. There's a bunch of tiles on a grid, and you put different blocks on a grid, and you can interact with those blocks. And I was like, this is kind of cool. And I saw graph paper, and I started to draw a bunch on there too. So you draw like little boxes on graph paper, and I thought that was super cool. Eventually, my parents got me this program called Game Maker, what is now known as Game Maker Studio, owned by Opera now, and their coding style is mostly visual. You drag and drop blocks onto a screen. If this happens, then do this. If that happens, do that. And it's kind of like Scratch. With that coding IDE, that was like the first foray into coding. And I was like, this is cool. I can make anything happen if I really wanted to. I can make all the games I want. Surely I was a kid that didn't understand programming, so I kept falling through the floors of the games I made, but it was super cool. And that is why I went into the computer science kind of world when I went into college. Just because I say it that I didn't really know what I wanted to do going to college, and when like I started out with games already, and I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I just liked making games. I didn't know what was specific that I liked about it, or if I it was like, do I want to do something with backend leaderboards, or do I just want to work with level design? The Game Maker was the start of my journey through there. And then when Game Maker went through a transition to a new version, and that was outpriced by the new version. I went into Unity. When I first went into college, there was a computer science degree, but that was also the first year they added computer game science. So there was no knowledge on what that was. So I didn't apply for that major. Could have only wondered what it'd be like if I switched majors into that and been part of the first class or first years of classes. Now they have a pretty good games program over there, so that's a big what if in my life too.
That's crazy. Like thinking about where you could have been if you had like taken one step in a different direction. That always boggles my mind.
I had a lot of people that asked advice for, and they said, "We don't know what computer game science is. No company's gonna hire you for games. Don't go for it." You know, and this was a time where like no one really knew how big the games industry is going to be. There's a few articles saying it's going to hit like billions of dollars by 2030. But you know, not a lot of people are risk averse, and I was like, okay, I'm going computer science. Here I am now.
The safe choice. What about you, Alina?
Yeah, so how I initially got into games, I had a older cousin who's like he's about 10 years older than me, and he had a PlayStation 1, but he broke it. And I think I was like 6 or 7 years old at the time, and he said, "Alina, like I don't care about this. If you fix it, like you can keep it, whatever." And so little like 6-year-old Alina like opens up the PlayStation, like tears it down. There was a Cheez-It stuck in the reader, like the lens thing. And so I took the cheese, like a piece of a Cheez-It out, and then it started working again. And so I got a free PS1, and that's like where it all began. So I played a lot of Spyro. I think it wasn't Marvel versus Capcom. I think it was like one of those versions. And just like a lot of games on PS1, and that's kind of how I got started. And then my dad was working for a company called Seagate, which makes hard drives for Microsoft. And then my dad was like anti Sony, so he was like, "You need an Xbox. Like Xbox is a Microsoft product. We're a Microsoft household." And then got me an original Xbox, and then I switched over to that and have been an Xbox girl since. I feel like all the games I played were all just like the mainstream, like popular games at the time. Like Halo 1 was a huge game, and like just learning how to play a first person shooter with that like I don't know if you remember the Xbox controller. It's like this giant massive thing with like my little itty bitty like 8-year-old hands. It was horrible. I've always loved video games and like objects, but I chose mechanical engineering. I didn't know game dev was a thing probably until a couple of years ago. And I didn't pursue game dev and coding until like a year and a half ago. So I'm very new. And that's why I'm on Twitch and like learning from people like you two to like learn more about coding and this industry.
Love that. We are a Microsoft household. You're not allowed to
Are you
say.
flexing our Microsoft stuff now? Controller.
Oh, is that the
There we
controller?
go.
There it is.
Wow.
That's the
These are the
Pro.
old days. This is a standard
Okay.
Xbox Bluetooth controller that you can buy now. Right here is a classic one. This is what I
Oh
grew up
my
with.
gosh.
There we go. There we
This
go.
is the one.
N64.
As Alina mentioned earlier, controllers back then were massive. Or they started small, then they became massive, and then now they're like okay size.
It's great because the TVs back then could handle the hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to like hear a little bit about if you guys are like willing to share some of your like beginner projects you've made. Like, what is your favorite one? Which one you hate?
I got started with, so I first wanted to just like, do game dev properly. So I took a Coursera course. I used to pay for $100 a year, but it was unlimited Coursera courses with the certificate. And so I went and got the nano degree or whatever you call it for Unity game dev. But honestly, I sucked at that course. I was horrible. I could like barely do the C# stuff, and I'm like, this is horrible. I don't like this. Maybe I don't like game dev. Like I couldn't wrap my mind around the coding aspect. And then I was watching YouTube, and then I ran into Unreal Blueprints and Unity Playmaker. And so what I stream today is actually no code game dev or visual scripting game dev. And so I found that, and actually that's kind of where I got my start. So my first few projects were kind of these like basically Coursera homework assignments, like design a little first person shooter thing that counts how many blocks you shoot, like really basic stuff. But yeah, it was horrible. So for those who are like trying to get into game dev and the C# or the coding part is not clicking, there's other engines and there's other softwares, and maybe you want to get started with no code first. And now several months in, I'm transitioning more into the proper coding and C# side.
Even for me, like I said earlier, I started out with GameMaker, and that whole language is basically drag and drop. It's all visual. I think a lot of us are visual learners now, and when you can kind of make it the connection of this is how this comes together, that really helps you understand the computer logic. And then over time, when you get to understand how the code works in text and this like pseudocode matter, then you can start transferring that over into full on code.
I love hearing that there are ways to get into game dev that doesn't require heavily on like having a background in computer science or knowing certain languages. It really helps to like lower the barrier of entry, and I think that's really cool that there's an approach for that because you don't really see that for too many like careers out there. What about you, Brown? Share a like a project of yours that you kind of worked on, and maybe something like which one's your favorite. You have a link for it.
Yeah. You want me to show like it's specifically one of them. I already know it. You just posted in the chat already.
I haven't seen your project, Brown. I want to see.
You can just literally post a link in chat and be like, good luck. I'll let you do
or
that.
maybe
Sam.
a specific game, maybe.
Maybe I've been making a couple of games on the side, going to college as a way to build a portfolio when I was like full sending it into game dev, and one of those games is called Hackulu, which is named after a hackathon I did. I was going after the best joke award, which is a award for most silliest project that really does not help the community because hackathons are supposed to help the community. So so it's a web app made in GameMaker. This is one of the last GameMaker games I made before I got outpriced. It got deprecated and obsolete later. Clicked on the uwus and owos and iwis, and every time I clicked on them, it said uwu. See, boba, you can click on the boba, but then you lose uwu points because you gain energy through boba, and boba costs money. And then there's these little memes that show up, and you have to avoid them because they're distracting you. And the whole point is you don't want to get distracted by a bunch of things college throws at you. Just continue being happy, continue saying uwu, and you'll get through college. Give me the best joke reward for that. and that was probably the most accomplished thing I've ever made through my entire computer science career. It does not help the world in any way, but
It's like it's
but it's
commentary on society.
Yeah,
It's quite
yeah.
deep and artistic.
that was the one game that really stood out to me. But what led to that point was making a bunch of different games beforehand, and the inspiration for those games were the fact that I liked watching a bunch of game shows. One of my favorites was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and that's an easy game show to rebuild. It's a game where you answer 15 questions to get $1 million, but you have to answer these questions like one at a time. If you get it wrong, then you lose all the money. So that's a pretty easy thing to program one at a time, like a multiple choice type of thing. And that helped me, like, when I broke down these game shows into different components, I was able to like make the game one building block at a time. So I don't know how that led to Hakuwu, but here we are.
I'm gonna open up the chat too if you guys have any questions related to like freelancing, consulting, or even game dev. And then while you guys type up those questions, I kind of want to ask more about your guys' like streaming career. Just like what kind of got you interested into streaming? What do you love about it? And you see yourself like continuing forward with streaming?
I got into streaming because I wanted to just like get more people to look at my game. Like, I was doing game dev by myself full time, doing the consulting business on the side. It's kind of lonely, and it's like I need people to like look at my game. I need more feedback. I follow this mantra of user centric design where you always want to be talking with your users. And so I'm like, okay, if I start streaming, then people can start like looking at the game, and it might be good PR, it might be a good marketing thing. And then what it ended up actually turning into, because I'm a tiny itty bitty streamer, is just finding a community of really cool people, fans. And also it's helped me a lot with my schedule and staying motivated. Like it's like, okay, I need to get online, I need to stream. Like this is so freaking painful right now, this C# whatever feature I'm working on. But Twitch has really helped me just like keep it up, and it's always nice to see returning not faces, usernames in the chat.
It's actually absolutely a great way to get like feedback. Actually, a lot of game devs here on Twitch streaming as well, and I think it
Hmm.
like brings you closer to the creator too, because it's like I feel like every game is slightly based off the creator, right? Like just like how every movie is based off like or like a book is based off kind of like the author's lifestyle or
Hmm.
like life, right? So being able to kind of like get that backstory for the game, get to learn more about the person behind the game, makes it more fun and enjoyable to play. What about you, Brown? What got you here on the Twitch?
Well, Sam, I started out by joining my friend on Twitch after I graduated with my bachelor's. She wanted to get started on Twitch for fun and like stream games. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I'll join you. And so we both started together. It's a really good way to network with people,
Mm.
regardless of what game you're playing. If you're really focused on a specific game, for me, it's Valorant. Recently, you get to meet a lot of people in the Valorant community that also like to stream their gameplay. And for me, in the broadcasting world, that's actually how I got pretty much every gig is through Twitch, because I got to meet a
Wow.
bunch of people from different walks of life. I got lucky with a streamer attorney whose format is to invite 80 random people into a tournament and put them in random teams. And that's 80 new people to meet. Like that's a lot of people. And and it turned out that my broadcasting skills were good enough at that point that people checked me out and I checked them out, and that led to more meeting more people down the line. I like that in a way. We live in a place where it's hard to go out, or at least at the time it was basically impossible to go out to meet people. So the only other ways to do it online. It was just how do you approach that challenge. And for me, it was just to keep meeting people on Twitch and keep broadcasting and working on this craft and seeing where that takes me. And now I just basically stream Valorant all the time and do stream attorneys for Valorant.
No, I definitely did not realize how much like networking connections you could get just from streaming through Twitch. I did this just kind of for fun, and then I realized, well, like Alina, I needed the accountability of like focusing on my work and like focusing on my stuff. And that ended up growing into more. And like I always knew you'd find like a great community on Twitch. I just didn't realize how attached I would get to all of you.
I remember seeing the old Sam and you know, I don't know if I should mention the old days.
The old days. What are the old days?
When I played Genshin Impact, oh gosh.
Yeah, that was the greatest thing ever. Watching you open your wallet and roll for different things in the game. Um, and it's interesting because at the time, like there were like so little Twitch categories. Like there's just science and technology, and now like this streams category software and game development. That's fairly new, fairly
Yeah.
new. Like Twitch used to just be let's play games, and not
Right,
like
right.
let's work on games or let's talk about let's have these podcasts. This stuff is like new, and streamers like YouTube kind of found this world, this like community where you can kind of foster a community yourselves and meet a bunch of people with same interests. You know, Twitch is no longer just let's play games. It's a lot more than that. It's
Yeah.
transcended that.
And still, there's so many people out there who don't know this category exists. So we need to do our work and advertise the category.
Sam, when did you start streaming or switch to the software category?
Pretty much shortly after this category existed, because like I had considered doing coding streams because I knew there was a science and tech category.
Mm-hmm.
But what really solidified it is when I realized that there was like other people who were doing coding and there was like a whole section group just for it, and I was like, okay, I'm interested, I'll do it. Again, I wanted to focus more on my studies, and I know I needed to do that more since I took a break from college, or break, I don't know if I'll go back for now, but I was like, okay, that means I have to self-study, I need to start doing that more. And like what better than to find a community of people who are also doing the same thing. Anyways, I don't really know how long I can keep you guys for, but we had like 2 questions in chat. One was like tips for getting paid. So I'm probably assuming like how did the sort of like with the contract work? Like did the business on their side, did they handle everything? Did you have to find out and handle everything?
I think from the consulting side, it's like first thing is like how do you want to set up your business? Are you a sole proprietor? Do you need more legal protections where you want to be an LLC, limited liability corp? And there's a bunch of legal stuff. And also, this is from the American perspective. Each country is going to have their own legal things as well. And then it's also like usually as a contractor or a consultant, you pick your own pricing. And so there's 2 big categories. There's firm fixed price where you say this whole project's going to cost $5,000, or you say hourly rate. And then depending on your relationship with the client, their style and whatnot, you can kind of bring up both. And then like you want to pick the one that gives you more money. Because like if you're like in the back of your head, you're like, oh, this project's like super effing easy, but the client really values it, you should do firm fixed price because you're gonna make more money per hour. And so that's kind of how I do it. But most of my clients are usually hourly basis because they're small startups and they're like, oh, we only need 5 hours this week, 10 hours that week, and then just charge the client weekly. And then there's a ton of online services you can do to, hook up your PayPal and have them pay you and get the money into your business account. So yeah, that's kind of overview of that.
We might have to do a whole finances with Alina talk next.
No.
That's something I would love to tune into. When I did my first contract role at Twilio, that was also like a question that had to be posed, even though that work was remote. The TwilioQuest team is from all over the world. You had to talk about like, I live in Cali, and the cost of living in Cali is insane, and so the rate has to be higher. And then we talked about that. However, when it comes to commentating, I have to do everything for free so I can build stuff on my portfolio so that I can eventually get paid. This is one of those industries where you have to do everything for free and unpaid until you make it big. I acknowledge that. I know it's not like something where if I ask for $10 an hour right now, I won't get any roles. So
wow.
even as good as I think I am, and I can gloat about this, I'm not going to get roles. And no streamer is going to pay you $10 unless you make it to the big one. You have to get noticed and you have to work yourself up. And I have to realize that value. I'm like, okay, how do I make my reel better? How many bigger events can I do to make myself stand out? So then I can have that power, I guess, this control of the destiny. So in both sides of my solo work has been, they're approached very differently, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I know there's like a huge like about like, you know, try not to get jobs for free, you should always be paid for your time. But unfortunately, I guess the reality is in some more niche categories is that you're sometimes gonna have to do that for free until you get that recognition, and then you can finally be like, ha, you have to afford me now. You can't just make me do this for free. This question, it seems a bit more technical. I don't know anything about it, but they're saying with games reaching the point of diminishing returns in terms of graphical fidelity, what does this mean for game engines? I guess something about higher resolutions are also reaching diminishing returns. Rem's a big, huge game expert, so you guys take it away.
Oh gosh, I can't talk about code optimization, but I think just talking about the future of gaming and where that's heading to, and where I think game engines need to start compensating for, is the world of AR and VR. The Apple AR/VR mixed reality headset is going to get formally announced sometime next year. You know, Meta Quest Pro just came out. Side note, I used to work at Meta as a contractor, so I don't know, take it with a grain of salt too. I'm a huge VR advocate. Like, we need Playmaker blueprints, no code for better, I think, human machine interface and like UI, UX interactions. Right now, I think a lot of the UI stuff being done in VR is like crap. I think we need a lot more designers, programmers, and then to package these into really elegant solutions on these game engines and on these platforms. So I'm really looking forward to what third-party devs are going to be doing over the next few years in that space.
VR is an interesting space. I remember going when I was going to my master's. I had some colleagues that were focused on VR UI research and how to make someone
Yes.
not dizzy.
Oh yeah.
Basically, because getting dizzy in the virtual world is a pretty big thing right now. Because you're not walking through the world, you're controlling yourself through the world, and your brain can't process that. And so there's different ways to put the UI shit up on the screen. Does that like help you get dizzy, or do you have to like immersively put it in the world? If you, the point is, the AR VR I think is the thing that a lot of companies are looking into right now. Like what Sony is doing with their VR headset releasing as well. A lot of companies are going to try to target that, and that may mean we have to transition over to optimizing that part more.
And then we have a question from Cam. So how do you handle slow periods in terms of income when being freelance, self-employed, mentally? Like, how do you not get discouraged when you don't think you're as busy or you're not as busy as you'd like to be? Like, I feel like personally, I would just take that as like free time, but I think Alina doesn't get free time. But I would take that as a vacation.
I mean, if you're able to sustain yourself through this so-called dead period, then yeah, why not? And this just comes down to being able to budget your money, and are you able to sustain yourself there? But for me, I will acknowledge that it does get discouraging when it's like, oh, no one wants me. When it's really like part of the job to go out and look for those roles. And you know, if you spend your whole time looking for roles, then you're gonna get sad. That's why you pick up hobbies and stuff, and find other ways to, you know, that keep you happy, and really balance that. You have control over your schedule, so you have control over your work-life balance. Maybe you do sleep on time, you do eat 3 meals a day, stuff like that. You know, you have control over that. It really helps mentally.
This is like a really rough question for me. I think I'm actually in one of those slump discouraged periods because I'm actively looking for side clients right now. So if you know any startups that need hardware work, hit me up. I mean, I designed a little safety net for myself. So I very mixed feelings about this, but right now I am recording live from my mom/grandma's basement. So I moved in with my family just a couple months ago, and that was just because like if the money stops and stuff, like I have a home, there's food. Like if worse comes to worse, I will be fine. And I'm like really blessed that I have the family that's able to do that and everything. But at the same time, it kind of sucks because like family stuff,
Family,
you know.
personal
So
space, boundaries.
yeah. So I don't know. Setting up a safety net for yourself if you're gonna do the self-employed thing. Like, what is your plan C? If shit hits the fan, like, do you have a friend's couch you can go to where you'll be fine?
I think especially because of COVID again, like normalizing staying home with family, moving in with family, and all of that, and that has been really cool. And I don't think it's like anything someone should look down upon someone else for, because you know we're all going through our own thing, and also it's not terrible. I mean, free food.
There
The
is a
home
lot of
cooked
free
meals
food.
are nice. But yeah, I'll probably wrap this up a little bit, ask kind of like what your guys' goals for the future, what current projects are you working on right now that you're really excited for, and
I'm in this esports cohort where I'm learning a little bit more about the industry as a whole and using that as well as my other connections in Twitch and doing more of this commentating side of things. So hopefully host my own full scale event. I know Sam, you hosted your big hackathon. I'm gonna host my big Valorant tournament. Well, big is in quotes, but try to work on that and see like, okay, maybe this would be like a cool thing for me to combine all the things I've learned about broadcasting into a project. Like I said, gotta work yourself up and have control over how valuable my services are and go from there with that side of things. In terms of the computer science side, I'll figure it out. I'm taking a data analyst course right now. It's tied into my most strongest skill set of SQL that I'm trying to pick back up again. You know what? I can do some data stuff. Let's see if it works out. Data analysis right now is on the rise in general, and I like coding SQL, so maybe it'll turn into something. We'll see.
Hoping the best for you. Data science, it feels like it's so trendy right now. I think sounds like a very like solid career path to go down. For me, besides like all that consulting stuff, what I actually do and spend full time on is the game dev. So I run a small indie game studio called Glossbird. We're creating our mobile game called Fitment, basically a exercise mobile game. So think Animal Crossing, Pocket Camp, plus Ring Fit Adventure. Put that together. That's our game. And we're looking for funding, we're looking for investors, we're looking for all of that. But in the meantime, I'm just working on improving my developer skills and building it out. So kind of the next big challenge that I need to learn and will start to learn, and you'll see me learning this on my streams, is the back end side. A big part of our exercise game is to be able to exercise with your friends. And so needing to support the back end to implement those features. So, oh gosh, I'm like kind of nervous, but that's what I'll be up to the next, I think, couple of months on the stream, and then continuing some no code stuff as well.
yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate learning a little bit more about you guys and asking all these questions. I'm gonna drop your guys' socials in the chat one
Thank
more
you.
time. You guys follow them on literally everything you can.
This was fun. I had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, Alina, are you gonna have really cute like fitness outfits in your game?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. We have this whole gosh, it's so like frustrating. We have this like giant game design doc basically saying outlining like what are all the items and all the things that are going to be in the final game. But it's like we need money so we can hire developers, 3D modelers, and everything, animators, tech artists, blah, 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 to finish the game. But if you want to show your support, you can get the current early access demo on iOS and Android and check out the small little thing. Like it's like 5% of the stuff is in there. I will be regularly streaming, is just building up that game, and then we send out updates every 2 to 3 weeks, and it's always fun to hear people's reactions.
But yeah, thank you again for coming on. This was really fun. I know it was kind of scuffed, but I think we had some really good conversations.
Yeah, your audience is great. Sam, Kit Kat, people in the chat, y'all are awesome. Thank you for supporting all of us here on Twitch. Like, we really appreciate it.
Don't forget to subscribe to Sam Kit Kat using Prime
Mhm.
Gaming so that she will get all the Prime sub money to do more of these things.
On my next guest star, guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all for stopping by and listening in on the conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And hopefully we can do something like that again in the future. All right. Bye. Love you all.